Every day, the world produces noise, but only a few moments produce meaning. Information is everywhere. Understanding is rare. Because facts alone do not enlighten, context does, analysis does, perspective does. Welcome to Aneke TV, where news is not merely reported, it is examined. Where conversations are not merely held, they are elevated. Where stories are not merely told, they are understood. In governance, in business, in society, in the global arena, clarity is power, discernment is advantage, awareness is responsibility. This is broadcasting with purpose, journalism with depth, programming with intellect. Nigeria, the world, we are live. Aneke TV, broadcasting daily, informing minds, shaping perspective. Across Nigeria's dynamic economy, enterprise is on the move. From the resilience of small businesses to the expanding reach of indigenous industries, commerce thrives on innovation, determination, and vision. Finance is evolving, powered by technology and driven by a new generation of entrepreneurs. In a rapidly changing world, digital transformation is redefining how we save, invest, and grow wealth. From energy to agriculture, manufacturing to tech, Nigeria's economic landscape continues to diversify. Policies shift, markets respond, and opportunities emerge. Every figure tells a story. Every trend shapes the future. The question is, where is the next opportunity? On Aneke TV, we bring you clarity beyond the numbers. This is Business Outlook on Aneke TV, tracking the markets, analyzing the trends, and spotlighting the drivers of economic growth. Aneke TV, informing enterprise, shaping perspective.
Welcome to the business desk on Aneke TV. We'll bring you a sharp look at the numbers that matter. We'll begin the week with the Nigerian exchange standing at a historic crossroads. After a record-breaking Friday that saw the all-share index settle above the 203,000 mark and investors gain 392 billion naira, all eyes are now on the opening bell to see if this bullish momentum can survive a fresh wave of profit-taking. As the naira maintains its hard-won stability at 1,356 and the global Brent crude hovers near $96, we will analyze what these macro indicators mean for your portfolio this Monday. I'm Uche Osai, and this is Aneke TV Business Desk. Let's get down to business. Now, starting with the Nigerian Stock Exchange performance as at Friday to give us a leeway into what the market will look like today. The Nigerian equities market closed on a positive note on Friday, April 10th, 2026, driven largely by strong 2025 full-year corporate earnings. Despite the gains in the headline index, market breadth was negative, with most stocks, declining than advancing. Now, the all-share index ASI closed at 203,770.43 points. That's up by 0.30%, and market capitalization ended at 131.161 trillion naira, with investors gaining approximately 392 billion in a single session. Trading volume rose to 548.60 million shares, which is a decrease of about 16% from the previous session. And then looking at the market breaks, we had 24 gainers against 34 losers. And then let's quickly take a look at the top losers top gainers first as at Friday, where we'll tell you that Transnationwide, traded as Transfer Express, did close the trading at 3.77 Kobo, making a positive adjustment of 9.91%. International Breweries, traded as Interbrew, closed trading at 13 naira 35 Kobo, making a positive adjustment of 9.88%. Chance PLC, traded as Chams, closed trading on a very bullish note of a positive 9.84% to close at 3 naira 34 Kobo. Guinness, traded as Guinness Nigeria, traded as Guinness, closed his book at 462 naira 90 Kobo, making a positive adjustment of 9.38% positive adjustment. WAPCO, as of Friday, made a positive adjustment, closing trading at a positive 8.52% to close his book at 233 naira 20 kobo. And then quickly, let's look at the top losers as at Friday. And we are seeing Omatech Ventures, traded as Omatech, closing at 2 naira 7 kobo, making a dip of a negative 10% adjustment. Austin Laz, traded Austin Laz and Co. traded as Austin Laz, closed trading at 3 naira 99 kobo on the dip of 9.93% negative adjustment. And then we saw Wapik Insurance, yes, equally in the dip of a negative 9.88% adjustment to close at 2 naira 92 kobo. Zikis Agros Allied traded as Zikis, equally in the dip as well. Yeah, a very big dip as well. A negative 9.58 negative adjustment to close trading at 12 naira 55 kobo. Yes, and then we'll quickly run along and see market projection for today being Monday. Yes, analysts expect a cautiously optimistic start to the new week. The primary factors influencing the outlook include profit taking. Yes, after the All-Share Index ASI reached a high on Friday, some investors may look to lock in gains early in the week, particularly in the banking and industrial sector. Yes, another factor here is the momentum. Sentiments remain boosted by the release of audited 2025 results. Companies announcing attractive dividends are expected to see sustained buying interest. And then speaking to trends, we will say liquidity trend in particular, is part of the factors, that will drive activities today. Looking at wide trading volume dip on Friday, institutional interest in heavyweights like Access Holding and Zenith Bank remains high, yes, which could stabilize the index if selling pressure hits mid-cap stocks as well. And then looking at macro factors that would drive the Nigerian Stock Exchange today, market participants continue to monitor the relative stability of the naira. It closed around 1,359 against the dollar on Friday, which has provided a measure of confidence for foreign and domestic investors alike. Overall, the market is expected to remain in a consolidation phase, today, with a likely tilt towards marginal gains if dividend-paying stocks continue their upward trajectory. Analysts expect a cautiously optimistic start to the new week. Yes, we've talked about these primary factors that are driving the market. Yes, and then quickly, let's take a look at the Naira performance for Friday. Speaking to Naira performance for Friday, we will tell you that the Naira strengthened significantly at the Nigerian foreign exchange market, gaining 0.92%. Yes, 0.92% on a day-on-day basis. Yes, and then the market closed at 1,356.89 kobo against the US dollar. Yes, against the US dollar. Yes, and then during the intraday trading, the naira got as high as 1,362 naira 50 kobo against the dollar, and then the lowest we saw was 1,354 naira 1,354 naira 50 kobo against the dollar. And then speaking to the weekly gain, the currency gained a total of 29.77 naira, approximately 2.19% over the 4 trading session of the week. Then looking at the parallel market, or what you call the black market or the street market, followed official trend, reflecting improved stability and increased dollar supply. It closed at 1,400 naira against the dollar, appreciated from 1,405 on Thursday. Yes, and then speaking to a weekly gain where a total appreciation of 10 naira was witnessed throughout the week as well. And then speaking to this exchange against other currencies, yes, looking at how naira performed against other currencies as at Friday, we are looking at the British pound. The naira was able to hold its own and close at 1,836 naira 60 kobo. And against the euro, the naira closed at 1,599 naira 77 kobo. And against the Swiss francs, yes, the naira was able to hold its own at 1,729 naira 11 kobo, and against the Canadian dollar, the naira closed at 986 naira 81 kobo, and against the Chinese yuan, yes, against the Chinese yuan, the naira was able to close at 199 naira 85 kobo. Let's quickly take a look at market drivers. Yes, at the market drivers, we'll talk about liquidity mop up, where the CBN mopped up approximately 2.31 trillion through the OMO auction during the week, incentivizing foreign portfolio investors to bring in dollars. And then another factor here is the external reserve, where despite the naira strength, external reserve saw a slight decline, falling to 48.88 billion US dollars as of April 8, a 2.28% drop from the previous month. Yes, and then let's look at our Monday projection as per the Forex. Yes, we will tell you that analysts expect that the naira to maintain its current consolidation phase. While liquidity remains tight, the widening spread between official and parallel market, currently around 43 naira, remains a key point of focus for market participants. And then quickly, let's run to the Brent crude and take a look at the Brent crude performance. Yes, Brent crude performance, and we are speaking to the Brent crude performance, where it experienced a significant volatility on Friday, April 10, 2026. The market, balanced tentative ceasefire hopes against fresh supply disruption in the Middle East. We're taking a look at the Brent crude. Will tell you that it settled near $96.75 per barrel. Yes, and then looking at the movement, where prices gained roughly $0.83, approximately 0.9% from the previous close, despite a massive 11.5% decline over the course of the week. Now let's quickly take a look at key market drivers. One of such key market drivers is the Saudi supply disruption. Yes, an attack on Saudi Arabia's Jubail petrochemical complex reportedly cut production capacity by 600,000 barrels per day, roughly 10% of their normal exports, providing immediate price floor. And then we'll quickly take a look at geopolitical risk. Why the ceasefire talks between Israel and Lebanon initially cooled prices earlier in the week, the continued restriction of the Strait of Hormuz, with only 5 to 7 vessels, transiting daily compared to 100 plus pre-conflicts, kept a high war premium on every barrel. And then talking about strategic releases, we will tell you that downward pressure was applied by news that Japan and the US are preparing coordinated strategic oil reserves release to stabilize global energy costs. And then what is our market projection for today? The outlook for Monday's opening section remains highly volatile, with analysts predicting a trending range between $92 and $99. Yes, that's the projection. And then everything depends on the diplomatic outcomes. All eyes are on the outcome of the weekend diplomatic meetings in Pakistan with US and the Iranian delegation. Any signs of a concrete deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz could trigger a sharp sell-off around the $90 support level. And then speaking to infrastructural recovery, where I will tell you that markets will be monitoring the Saudi Aramco's updates regarding the Jubail facility. Rapid repair progress would remove the immediate supply crunch fears that spiked prices as on Friday. And then looking at technical sentiments, yes, technical sentiments where analysts note a the spanning top, candlestick pattern, suggesting the market is in a state of indecision. Consolidation is expected unless a major geopolitical headline breaks before, the market opens today. And then talking about long-term divergence, where institutional forecasts for Q2 2026 remain split. Goldman Sachs has, lowered its forecast to $90 on ceasefire hopes, while JP Morgan maintains a $100 target with upside risk if regional infrastructure remains targeted. Yes, let's quickly run and take a look at the commodities market. Yes, the Nigerian commodities market, where as at Friday, April 10, 2026, reflected a mix of rising domestic food prices and steadying export indices, largely influenced by weak, shorter trading schedule following the Easter break. At the African Exchange Commodities Index, yes, look at the African Exchange Commodity Index, which maintained a steady profile margin. Yes, marginal gains in grains subsector. The index remained heavily weighed towards maize, which gained a 55%. Paddy rice as well, were around 18.84%, and Shogun around 14.54%. Yes, the AFES Exports Index saw slight upward movement driven by cocoa and sesame, which now carry weight of 39% and 28% respectively in the reverse methodology. And speaking to agricultural spot prices, domestic prices continue to face upwards pressure due to high transportation cost, and this is linked to the global energy and seasonal supply tightening. And then quickly looking at the commodity, the price of maize, at as of Friday, sold at 52,833 naira, showing a rising trend. And then paddy rice at 51,333 naira, equally showing a rising trend. Soybeans equally sold as of Friday at 83 naira 167, equally on a rising trend as well. And then cocoa equally at 2,400, yes, showing a stable and softening position. And looking at grains, yes, taking a look at grains, prices for staples like maize and rice have seen a staircase upward trend as local production remain muted and farmers face high input costs. And then looking at the export crops, global cocoa prices have stabilized around 2,300 pounds to 2,400 pounds per metric ton, significantly lower than their 2025 peaks, though improved weather in West Africa suggests a healthy, mid crop yield for Nigerian exports. Yes, and then the market projection for Monday here, where we'll take a look at the commodity. The outlook here is for the start of the week is cautiously bullish for domestic prices, but volatility for export bound commodities, where we see that the domestic grains are expected a slight uptick at the opening of market today. Yes, food prices index is hitting highest level since September. Yeah, the transmission of global energy costs into local food logistics will likely keep the floor high for maize and shogun. Yes, while at the export sector, you see that the market will be watching for demand signals from the upcoming Q1, Q2 grand reports. If demand remains resilient despite the higher prices, we could see the African food export index gain momentum. And then let's quickly take a look at the international market performance, or rather let's quickly go to our market projection for Monday, speaking to the international market. Yes, where we'll look at the global opening on Monday will be almost entirely dictated by outcome of the Pakistan peace summit between US and Iranian delegates. Yes, and then speaking to this geopolitical pivot, where we'll tell you that a successful breakthrough regarding the Strait of Hormuz will likely trigger a risk-on rally, lifting tech and industrial stocks, yes, while sending energy prices and safe haven assets like gold lower. Conversely, a breakdown in talks could lead to a sharp spike in the retreat of defensive sectors as well. And then we'll look at the producer price index. People need to watch for the US PPI release, which will qualify how much of the energy spike is being absorbed. Yes, it's being absorbed by producers versus being passed on to consumers. And then IMF World Bank spring meeting is another factor. Yeah, ongoing discussion in Washington will set the tone for global price global policy coordination, with a focus on managing oil shock impact on net importing nations. Overall statement is that we expect a gap opening this morning. The direction, whether a relief rally or a flight to safety, will depend on the headlines from the US-Israeli versus Iran negotiating table. Investor strategy for today is one that you should look at. You should prioritize quality over hype. Yes, prioritize quality over hype. Yes, and we'll tell you that you take a look on or focus on tier 1 banks like GT and Zenith, companies with confirmed dividend yields. Then you take profit if you gained on Friday rally. Yes, that is our advice, that if you gained on Friday rally, that you should take profit. Yes, sell a portion to lock in gains before the potential Monday profit taking. However, you should watch the spread if the naira, speaking to Forest now, you should watch the spread if the naira fluctuates. Yes, institutional investors may exit quickly, but we're telling you to stay liquid. And then you have to avoid underperforming sectors like insurance, which led the losers chart on Friday. But on the whole, our advice is that you buy the dips in the blue chips, but don't chase the record high oil share index. No, don't chase it. Just go into the tier 1 banking sector. Be cautious with the forex as investors may want to cash out if the fluctuation continues. However, what we're telling you is that you should go after the blue chip stocks. That's where you should rest your money, bank on it. The blue chips, that's where you have to anchor and continue to watch and listen to the news coming in from the Middle East to know what would equally impact the market further. And that's where we'll conclude it today on Aneke TV Business Techs. And we are telling you to stay informed, stay ahead, and keep your eyes on the numbers. Yes, I am Uche Osai, and we are telling you that even though before you make incursion into the financial market, please do well to consult a certified financial analyst. And this is due to the volatility of the market. Invest wisely.
Across Nigeria's dynamic economy, enterprise is on the move. From the resilience of small businesses to the expanding reach of indigenous industries, commerce thrives on innovation, determination, and vision. Finance is evolving, powered by technology and driven by a new generation of entrepreneurs. In a rapidly changing world, digital transformation is redefining how we save, invest, and grow wealth. From energy to agriculture, manufacturing to tech, Nigeria's economic landscape continues to diversify. Policies shift, markets respond, and opportunities emerge. Every figure tells a story. Every trend shapes the future. The question is, where is the next opportunity? On Aneke TV, we bring you clarity beyond the numbers. This is Business Outlook on Aneke TV, tracking the markets, analyzing the trends, and spotlighting the drivers of economic growth. Aneke TV, informing enterprise, shaping perspective.
Need advert placements, coverage for events, or the latest news stories? Call 070-3043-7110 right now. Aneke TV, move with the world.
Nigeria, a land of striking contrast, where nature unfolds into dominant ecological identities. The lush southern forest and the vast northern savanna belts, stretching from the humid Atlantic coast to the dry fringes of the Sahara. Nigeria's vegetation is shaped by climate, rainfall, and human activity. Broadly, it is divided into the southern forest zones and the northern savanna belts. In the south, abundant rainfall gives rise to tropical rainforest, thick, multi-layered ecosystems, rich in biodiversity, towering trees from a continuous canopy, sheltering countless plants and animal species. These forests are not only ecological treasures, but also economic lifelines supporting agriculture and livelihoods. Closer to the coast, fresh water and mangrove swamps dominate. Here, water and land intertwine, creating unique habitats adapted to flooding and salinity. The mangrove forests of the Niger Delta are among the largest in Africa, vital for coastal protection and marine life. Moving northward, forests gradually give way to the Guinea savanna, a mix of tall grasses and scattered trees. This region supports farming and livestock, forming Nigeria's agricultural heartland. Further north lies the Sudan savanna, where rainfall decreases and vegetation becomes sparser. Life here adapts to longer dry seasons and harsher conditions. At the northern edge, the Sahel savanna marks the transition to the desert. Vegetation is sparse, and survival depends on resilience of both people and nature. However, Nigeria's vegetation faces growing threats. Deforestation in the south and desertification in the north are reshaping the landscape. Population growth, agriculture, and climate change continue to exert pressure on these fragile ecosystems. Yet, hope remains. Across the country, conservation efforts are taking root, from reforestation projects to sustainable land management practices, from the dense forests of the south to the open savannas of the north. Nigeria's vegetation tells a story of diversity, resilience, and responsibility. A story that calls on all of us to protect the natural heritage we share.
Good morning and welcome to News Around the Globe on Aneke TV. I'm Good Hope Chukuma. Glad to have you join us. Headlines: Supreme Court of Nigeria to hear ADC, PDP leadership disputes tomorrow. On the foreign scene, opposition secures major victory in Hungary elections. Business: air traffic controllers warn of possible nationwide flight disruptions over safety concerns. Now the news in details. The Supreme Court of Nigeria is scheduled to hear appeals on Tuesday arising from leadership disputes within the African Democratic Congress, ADC, in a case that is expected to clarify the party's current national leadership structure. The appeal involves former President of the Senate and ADC National Chairman David Mark, who is challenging judicial decisions affecting the legitimacy and control of the party's leadership hierarchy. The matter stems from prolonged internal disagreements within the party, which have resulted in competing claims and questions over recognized national executives. The Apex Court is expected to examine the legal and procedural issues surrounding the dispute, with its decision likely to have significant implications for the stability and future organization of the party. Also, the Supreme Court will tomorrow hear a separate appeal involving the People's Democratic Party, PDP, over a dispute into its national convention and resulting leadership structure. The appeal is being pursued by a faction aligned with the governor of Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, and led by Tanimu Turaki. At the center of the matter is a judgment of the Court of Appeal of Nigeria, which nullified the party's national convention and set aside the leadership that emerged from it. The faction is urging the Apex Court to overturn the appellate's decision. arguing that a final and binding resolution is necessary to prevent further institutional instability within the party. The African Democratic Congress, ADC, has fixed May 12, 2026 for the inauguration of its newly elected state executives as the leadership led by David Mark moves to consolidate its authority and internal disputes. The decision signals a determination by the party leadership to formalize structures across the states, despite ongoing litigations, parallel congresses, and factional claims reported in parts of the country. The development was confirmed in a statement issued by the party's National Publicity Secretary, Bolaji Abdullahi, on behalf of the National Working Committee. The party stated that the inauguration will proceed as scheduled, with any necessary adjustment to be communicated officially as efforts continue to stabilize the party ahead of future electoral engagements. Chairman of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Mrs. Abike Dabiri Erewa, has stirred controversy following remarks directed at supporters of former Anambra State Governor and Chieftain of African Democratic Congress, ADC, Mr. Peterobi. In a series of posts on X, Mrs. Dabiri Erewa criticized the conduct of the group, popularly known as Obedience, warning that their actions could negatively impact Mr. Obi's future political ambitions if not addressed. She further asserted that political leaders bear responsibility for the behavior of their supporters, while defending her right as a public official to respond to online criticism and engagement. The comments followed reactions to her recent official visit to Silicon Valley, where she engaged Nigerian professionals. The development has generated mixed reactions across political and public spheres. Governor Diko Rada has inaugurated 2 stabilization centers and 60 outpatient therapeutic sites across 12 local government areas in Katsina State as part of efforts to combat childhood malnutrition. The initiative is designed to provide free and immediate treatment for children suffering from severe acute malnutrition, particularly in underserved communities. Governor Rada also announced the establishment of a mobile court to prosecute individuals involved in the diversion of sale of therapeutic food meant for affected children. The program is supported by 700 million naira in funding and a workforce of nearly 1,000 trained personnel, aiming at strengthening early detection and community-based healthcare delivery. The Inspector General of Police, IGP Mr. Olatunji Disu, has directed commissioners of police nationwide to end extortion, illegal checkpoints, and other forms of misconduct. The directive, contained in an internal communication to senior officers, underscores the need to restore public confidence in the Nigeria police force. The IGP acknowledged widespread public distrust, noting that such perceptions are unacceptable and must be addressed through disciplined and professional conduct. He specifically outlawed the collection of money from motorists, unauthorized roadblocks, and unlawful arrests involving forced cash withdrawals from citizens. The Nigerian Army's 17th Brigade has refuted reports alleging internal sabotage in the death of a soldier in Katsina State. In a statement, the brigade clarified that the deceased was Corporal Udejude, who sustained fatal injuries during a personal altercation with a civilian outside the barracks at the Frontier Forward Operating Base. The Army stated that the soldier received continuous medical care before he was later confirmed dead after a medical emergency in March. It added that full welfare support has been extended to the family while investigations into the incident are ongoing. Governor Babagana Zulum has defended a recent military airstrike on Gili Market amid reports of civilian casualties. The governor stated that the market has been officially closed by the state government due to its alleged use as a hub of insurgent activities and logistics. He noted that the state maintains coordination with the military on security operations and community resettlement decisions. Governor Zulum called on residents to remain vigilant and support security agencies in ongoing efforts to restore peace in affected areas. The Yoruba State Emergency Management Agency has confirmed an accidental airstrike at Gili Market, resulting in multiple casualties. The agency said assessment teams have been deployed to the affected community near Gaidam following directive from Governor Mai Malabuni. While the Nigerian Air Force confirmed conducting operations in the area, casualty figures remain unverified with varying reports emerging from different sources. Authorities have urged the public to remain calm and avoid speculation as efforts continue to establish the facts and provide humanitarian assistance. Ohanaeze Ndigbo worldwide has ratified its reviewed constitution at a General Assembly held in Enugu. The motion for adoption was moved by the Emeritus Archbishop of Enugu Province, Most Reverend Emmanuel Chukwuma, marking a key milestone in ongoing institutional reforms led by the organization's leadership. The Assembly also mandated the conduct of elections for its Lagos and Abuja chapters within 90 days to strengthen national representation. Dignitaries at the meeting included former President of the Senate, Chief Adolphus Wabara, and the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Mrs. Bianca Odumegu Ojukwu. The Anambra State Special Anti-Touting Squad has intensified efforts against illegal revenue collection across parts of the state. The operation led to the arrest of suspects, including Michael Uwoma and Ndubisi Anyukwu, during raids in Mbuka, Obosi, and Bo. Authorities said investigations uncovered an organized extortion network involving daily remittance targets imposed on operatives. The suspects have been arraigned and remanded as the agency reaffirmed its commitment to enforcing compliance and protecting legitimate businesses. News around the globe is coming to you live from Aneke TV. Remember, you can stay connected with us on all social media platforms, Facebook and YouTube at Aneke TV. Now a quick recap of the major stories making the news. Supreme Court lead to hear ADC, PDP leadership disputes. Coming up shortly, opposition records major election victory in Hungary. Air traffic controllers raise alarm over possible flight disruptions. We'll be right back shortly.
The Insight with Uche Osai.
Having the political will to confront whatever is the challenges.
Igbo man wrestles with
the tortoise that had a lot of ingenuity, a lot of ideas, and the tireless.
It will take the bold mind of government in power to say, let there be electoral reform, no matter who sorts is God.
I was there. We did everything. All of us came and supported him with our love.
In-depth analysis, expert views, real voices, uncover the stories shaping Nigeria today. Deep dive, honest, unfiltered, only on the Insight with Uche Osai on Aneke TV. Join us.
Welcome back. Viktor Orban has conceded defeat in Hungary's parliamentary elections, marking a major political shift after more than a decade in power. Preliminary projections indicate that the opposition, TSA party, led by petermbah, has secured a decisive parliamentary majority. In an early morning address, Prime Minister Orban acknowledged the outcome, stating that the electorate had clearly voted for change, even as final vote tallies are being awaited. The development signals a potential reconfiguration of Hungary's political structure, with the incoming leadership expected to initiate broad institutional and policy reforms. Saudi Arabia has summoned Iraq's ambassador to Riyadh over alleged drone threats originating from Iraqi territory. In a statement, the Saudi Foreign Ministry called on Iraq to take immediate measures to prevent further security breaches affecting Saudi Arabia and neighboring Gulf states. Authorities in Riyadh expressed concern over rising regional instability linking the incidents to broader geopolitical tensions involving state and non-state actors. The development underscores growing diplomatic strain as Saudi Arabia intensifies pressures on Iraq to secure its airspace and prevent escalation. 3 personnel of the Pakistan Coast Guards have been killed in a maritime attack off the coast of Balochistan. Security sources say the victims were on routine patrol in the Arabian Sea when armed militants opened fire on their vessel near the Iran border. The attack has been claimed by the Balochistan Liberation Army, which described it as a shift in operational tactics to include maritime targets. Pakistani authorities have since launched an investigation and reinforced security in the coastal region amid concerns over escalating insurgent activities. United States President Donald Trump has indicated that the planned blockade of the Strait of Hormuz will require time to implement. Speaking in a media interview, the president highlighted the logistical complexity involved in restricting movement through one of the world's most strategic oil transit routes. The move follows heightened tensions between the United States and Iran after the breakdown of diplomatic engagements. Officials say operations are ongoing with potential implications for global energy supply and international maritime security. Now on business, the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee has dismissed reports alleging that the Minister of State for Finance, Taiwo Oyedele, admitted errors in Nigeria's new tax laws. In an official statement, the committee clarified that the minister did not call for any legislative probe, affirming that the tax reforms have been in force since January 2026. Authorities noted that the reforms have significantly expanded the tax base, with registered taxpayers reportedly increasing from 10 million to over 100 million. The government maintained that the framework provides targeted relief for small businesses and low-income earners, urging the public to rely on verified information. The Nigerian Air Traffic Controllers Association has warned of a possible slowdown in flight operations across the country, citing mounting fatigue, system failures, and poor welfare conditions affecting its members. In a statement jointly signed by its president, Edino Ilemona Amos, and General Secretary Omar Fahad, the association said air traffic controllers have been overstretched beyond safe operational limits, raising concerns about the reliability of Nigeria's airspace management. The association attributed the situation to outdated communication, navigation, and surveillance infrastructure, noting that critical systems remain unreliable and compel operators to work around technical deficiencies. It warned that such conditions increase operational risk and are inconsistent with global aviation safety standards. The association further highlighted gaps in manpower development and working conditions, including inadequate training and substandard control tower facilities. It referenced a recent fire incident at Murtala Mohammed International Airport, stressing the need for urgent intervention to safeguard personnel and sustain safe flight operations. Now in sports, the Nigeria National League has postponed the fixture between Osun United and Sporting Lagos by 24 hours. The match, initially scheduled for April 15th, will now be played on April 16th, 2026 in Osogbo, with no official reason provided for the adjustments. Sporting Lagos currently leads Conference B standings with 33 points, maintaining a narrow advantage over Akwa United. The outcome of the rescheduled fixture is expected to determine promotion qualification to the top-tier league. Rivers United has moved to the top of the Nigerian Premier Football League table following a 1-0 victory over Plateau United. An early goal by Wisdom Samuel secured maximum points, taking Rivers United to 58 points with 4 matches remaining in the season. Former leaders Rangers International dropped to second position after a goalless draw against Niger Tornadoes. Other results saw Enyimba and Ikorodu City record home victories as the title race intensifies. Now in entertainment, veteran Nigerian media personality Patrick Doyle has announced the death of his newborn daughter. In a statement, Doyle disclosed that the child, Omayinua, passed away less than 24 hours after birth. He expressed gratitude for the brief time spent with the infant, while affirming the family's fate during the period of mourning. The development has drawn condolences from colleagues and the wider media community as the family navigates the loss. And finally, before we go on news around the globe, a recap of our top stories. The Supreme Court of Nigeria will tomorrow hear appeals arising from leadership disputes within the African Democratic Congress, ADC, and the People's Democratic Party, PDP. The cases involved former President of the Senate and ADC National Chairman David Mark and a PDP faction aligned with the Governor of Oyo State, Sheyi Makinde, led by Mr. Tanimu Turaki. In Europe, Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban has conceded defeat following a general election victory by the opposition Tiza party led by petermbah. Preliminary results indicate a significant parliamentary majority for the opposition, marking a major political transition. In the aviation sector, the Nigerian Air Traffic Controllers Association has raised concerns over possible nationwide flight disruptions. The association, led by its president, Edino Ilemona Amos, and General Secretary Umar Fahad, cited safety risks linked to outdated infrastructure, operational strain, and welfare challenges affecting air traffic controllers. That's the news around the globe on Aneke TV. For more news and live updates, follow us across all social media platforms, Facebook and YouTube at Aneke TV. I'm Good Hope Chukuma, thanking you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your morning.
Need advert placements, coverage for events, or the latest news stories? Call 070-3043-7110 right now. Aneke TV, move with the world.
Leadership, in its deepest sense, is not the occupation of authority, but the assumption of moral weight. It is the invisible burden of choice, the negotiation between power and conscience, between what is possible and what is right. In every society, but especially in Nigeria's complex and evolving democracy, leadership becomes the mirror which a people either recognize their dignity or lose sight of it. Integrity, therefore, is not a decorated virtue attached to leadership. It is its very substance. It is the invisible thread that binds intention to action, promise to fulfillment, and power to responsibility. Without integrity, leadership becomes performance. With it, leadership becomes philosophy in motion. To speak of an egalitarian society is to speak of a moral imagination, a society where human worth is not negotiated by birth, geography, tribe, or privilege, but recognized as an inherent truth. Yet, such a society cannot exist in abstraction. It must be constructed through the ethical decisions of those entrusted with power. In this sense, integrity is not merely a personal virtue, it is a structural necessity. Nigeria, like many post-colonial societies, carries within it a tension between promise and practice. Its constitutional ideals often rise higher than its institutional realities, and in that gap between aspiration and execution, the question of integrity becomes unavoidable. For every broken system is first a broken commitment, every weakened institution a reflection of compromised truth. When leadership loses integrity, societies does not simply become inefficient, it becomes fragmented. Trust, once fractured, does not merely disappear, it recedes into cynicism. Citizens begin to expect failure as normality, and governance becomes a theater where hope is repeatedly rehearsed but rarely fulfilled. Yet, integrity in its truest philosophical sense is not merely the absence of corruption, it is the presence of coherence. It is the alignment of inner conviction with outer action. A leader of integrity does not simply avoid wrongdoing, they embody consistency in a world that constantly was compromised. In such coherence lies the foundation of equity, for inequality is not sustained only by economic imbalance, but by moral inconsistency, where rules apply differently depending on proximity to power. An egalitarian society demands more than equal laws, it demands equal moral application of those laws. This is only possible where integrity governs leadership. To build a society, institutions must outlive individuals, and principles must outweigh personalities. Yet, even institutions are also as strong as the moral will that animates them. Integrity, therefore, is not an abstract ideal suspended above realities. It is the force that determines whether systems remain hollow structures or become living instruments of justice. There is also a deeper philosophical truth. Societies do not collapse suddenly. They erode gradually through repeated exceptions to integrity. Each compromised decision becomes a precedent. Each silence in the face of wrongdoing becomes permission. Over time, what was once deviation becomes culture. And yet, integrity is never beyond recovery. It is continuously available as choice. It is the possibility of return. In leadership, it is the decision to be accountable even when no one is watching, to prioritize the public good even when private gain is easier, and to recognize that power is not ownership but stewardship. An egalitarian society, then, is not a distinction but a moral discipline. It is sustained not by slogans of unity, but by the daily ethical labor of those who govern and those who are governed. It requires a shared consciousness that justice is not automatic, it is maintained in the end. Integrity is the quiet architecture of trust, and trust is the foundation upon which societies either stand or collapse. Nigeria's future, that of any nation, will not be determined solely by the abundance of its resources, but by the depth of its moral seriousness. For leadership, stripped to its essence, is not the exercise of power over others, but the faithful responsibility of power for others. And in that responsibility lies the possibility of a society where equity is not merely proclaimed, but lived silently, consistently, and justly.
In a world that never stands still, where stories break in seconds and moments shape history, one station keeps you connected to your nation, to the continent, to the world.
From breaking news to powerful stories, from business and politics to culture, lifestyle and entertainment, we inform, we inspire, we keep you ahead.
This is more than television. This is your window to everywhere that matters.
Aneke TV. Move with the world.
Nigeria finds itself at a pivotal moment. A nation of nearly 220 million people, rich in human potential, natural resources, and cultural diversity. Nigeria is simultaneously confronted with an array of security challenges that have deep historical roots and contemporary complexity. From the harsh insurgency that has persisted in the northeast for over a decade to the sprawling banditry networks across the northwest, from recurrent header-farmer clashes in the Middle Belt to rampant kidnap for ransom syndicates and urban criminality, insecurity today manifests not as isolated events, but as an interlinked ecosystem of violence and instability. These phenomena do more than threaten lives. They fracture social trust, impede economic growth, depress investment, and erode the foundational legitimacy of the state. In environments marked by distrust and fragmentation, dialogue emerges not as an optional luxury but a strategic imperative, a mechanism for understanding grievances, bridging divides, and constructing mutually accepted pathways toward peace and progress. Indeed, scholars of conflict resolution affirm that sustainable security is seldom achieved by force alone. It demands conversation, negotiation, and inclusive engagement across societal fault lines. Nigeria's own post-conflict history offers instructive precedent. Following the devastating civil war of the late 1960s, the approach known as "no victor, no vanquished" was more than a slogan. It was a commitment to national reconciliation. Government leaders, community representatives, and civil society actors engaged in dialogue that helped diffuse lingering bitterness and chart a course toward reintegration and rebuilding. Similarly, global practice reinforces the centrality of dialogue. In conflict zones from Northern Ireland to South Africa, negotiated engagement between hardline actors and governments ultimately outlasted militarized approaches. These examples illustrate a foundational principle. Dialogue humanizes the other and transforms entrenched antagonisms into space for shared problem solving. In the Nigerian context, dialogue must operate at multiple levels: local, state, and national, each tailored to the specificity of its environment. At the grassroots, structures like traditional council forums, community peace committees, and youth roundtables serve as critical platforms where grievances can be heard and understood. For example, in parts of Plateau and Kaduna states, facilitated dialogues between herders and farmers have reduced violent confrontations over land and grazing assets by identifying consensus on resource management and corporate forms of engagement. These forums help transform relationships of suspicion into dialogues of accountability and shared interest. At state and national levels, concerted efforts are needed to institutionalize dialogue mechanisms within governance architecture. This means establishing offices or councils dedicated to peace building, conflict management, and stakeholder engagement with clear mandates, independent oversight, and sustainable funding. By creating structured channels for communication between communities, security agencies, traditional leaders, and civil society, the state can move beyond ad hoc responses and toward proactive governance. Dialogue must not be restricted to reactive negotiations in moments of crisis. It should inform policy design and implementation. For example, if a policy on grazing reserves is developed without the voices of pastoral communities, farmers, and state governments, it risks exclusionary outcomes that fuel resentment. Genuine dialogue ensures representation, especially of women, youth, and marginalized groups whose experiences with insecurity are often distinct yet underrepresented in formal decision-making spaces. Recognizing the value of dialogue is one step, operationalizing it is another. To ensure that dialogue is transformative rather than performative, several practical measures should be prioritized. Conversations must be paired with tangible socio-economic investments, such as rural job creation, skill development programs, microfinance assets, and community infrastructure, which address the underlying conditions that often give rise to insecurity. Digital platforms can democratize engagement, enabling citizens, especially in remote areas, to participate in consultations, report security concerns in real time, and access information. Technology also expands the reach of peace education campaigns that reinforce values of tolerance and civic responsibility. Efforts to mainstream peace building into school curricula, community organizations, and media narratives help cultivate a culture of nonviolence and mutual respect. These educational foundations strengthen the long-term resilience of societies against polarization and conflict. Professional training for dialogue facilitators, negotiators, and conflict analysts enhances the quality and credibility of engagement processes. Skilled mediators are equipped to manage tensions, navigate entrenched positions, and sustain momentum toward constructive outcomes. Nigeria's security challenges are either sudden or isolated. They are the product of historical marginalization, governance deficits, competition over resources, economic insecurity, and weakened societal contrast. Addressing these complex realities demand a response that is equally nuanced and collaborative. Dialogue offers a means of confronting not just the symptoms of insecurity, but these root causes. As the nation contends with these present trials, the urgency of inclusive conversation cannot be overstated. In bridging divides, building trust, and co-creating solutions, dialogue becomes not only a pathway from violence to peace, but a foundation for progress. A secure, peaceful, and prosperous Nigeria is not a distant aspiration. It is a collective project achieved through the persistent work of engagement, understanding, and shared purpose.
Morning headlines before you step out. Midday updates while you walk. Evening analysis when the day winds down. Wherever life takes you, Aneke TV keeps you informed, connected, and ahead. Aneke TV. Move with the world. Morning headlines before you step out. Midday updates while you walk. Evening analysis when the day winds down. Wherever life takes you, Aneke TV keeps you informed, connected, and ahead. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, O42. Pleasant greetings to everyone watching. We are tuning to Sunrise here on Aneke TV, where every sunrise begins with delightfulness, love, and purpose. Bringing you today's daily dose of joy and peace. I'm Good Hope Chukuma, coming to you live from our studio here in vibrant Enugu.
And good morning to you, our global audience. I'm Uche Osai. They say, he who does not seize opportunities today will be unable to seize tomorrow's. Well, the sun is up, the coffee is hot, and we're here to make sure you don't just witness this day, you own it. Thank you for letting us into your space this beautiful Monday morning. We're here to refresh, inform, and motivate.
It's Monday, 13th of April 2026, so it's another wonderful and it's an edition of Sunrise. It's a power-packed morning with the latest news, business, weather, stock updates, and hot topics. And that's Sunrise Spark to help you on the day.
So, relax, grab that cup of coffee or tea, enjoy the cruise, because the sunrise is set sail.
Coming up shortly, we kick things off with our quote of the day, something thoughtful to shift perspective and help you stay well-driven or focused.
Then, it's straight into the day's top headlines. All the key news updates that you need to remain informed will be shared, hot, tasty, and of course, debated.
We'll also give you a full weather forecast for cities across Southeast and beyond, so you know what to expect before stepping out.
And later we'll wrap things up by bringing to you the business update and of course the sports wrap to keep you smiling.
And we go over to the quote of the day. That's our inspiration segment, which says, democracy is not to be slept on. He who sleeps on it will lose it. This is a quote from Moshood Abiola. This quote means that democracy requires constant attention, participation, and protection. It cannot survive if citizens become passive, careless, or indifferent. When people ignore their civic duties like voting, speaking up, and holding leaders accountable, they risk losing the rights and freedom of their leadership. In simple terms, democracy works when the people stay active and involved. The lesson here is that freedom is not automatic. It must be protected. Citizens must stay aware, participate in governance, and stand up for what is right. If people become silent or unconcerned, others may take advantage and weaken democratic values. So, to keep democracy alive, everyone must play their part and never take it for granted.
Speaking to democracy is not to be slept on. He who sleeps on it will lose it. By Alhaji Moshood Abiola, the acclaimed winner of June 12th election 1993. Here he is reminding us, he is a man who died without recovering his mandate in an election that is said to be the freest election, the free and fairest election ever conducted in Nigerian history. And here he's telling us one good thing, and it's timely at this time, that democracy is not to be slept on. He says, he who sleeps on it will lose it. And this is coming from experience. And he's rightly this morning speaking to Nigerians. Yes, we need to rise up, we need to wake up, cherish and protect the democracy that we enjoy today. All hands needs to be on deck. The opposition speaks to the challenges, the turmoil they face. But one thing is certain, that it's all price that needs to be paid for democracy. Those in leadership, the ruling party, shouldn't just relax. Democracy needs to be serviced. Servicing democracy is important. And being important, how do you service it? By upholding the very tenets of the rule of law. To see that the democracy that we have, the democracy that we enjoy today, is not by any means strengthened. We need to uphold actions that care about citizens, so that all would enjoy the dividends of democracy. And to the citizens, we need to be alive to our responsibilities. We need to be awake to our civic duties. Do you have your PVC? You need to get it. Yes, if you don't have it. And if you do have it, keep it well. Because if you hear from Musho Dabiola, an experienced politician, one who fought and died for what he believed in, his mandate to reclaim and bring Nigeria back into democracy. And he is telling us that we need to be wide awake. That means that democracy needs to be protected at all costs, irrespective of the fact that today we are enjoying democracy. We need not relax and say the military are back to the barracks. No. We need to watch our actions. We need to watch our words. We need to do everything to protect this democracy that we enjoy today. Therefore, the words of this statesman comes handy when he reminds us that democracy is not to be slept on. He who sleeps on it will lose it.
All right, we go on a short break and we'll be right back with the weather report. Stay with us.
Every second, the world changes. Markets rise. Leaders speak. Stories unfold. To keep up, you don't just need news. You need clarity. You need speed. You need perspective.
That's why Aneke TV brings you the global pulse. Accurate, reliable, right when it matters most. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
You're still watching Sunrise on Aneke TV. Let's take a look at the weather across major cities in the southeast today.
Good morning, Oka, the capital of Anambra State. Oka this morning will be warm, around 25 to 27 degrees Celsius, with a bit of cloud in the sky. As the day goes on, the temperature rises to 33 degrees Celsius, and you will really feel the heat settling in Oka. The air in Oka may be a bit heavy, and later in the day, rain or thunderstorms are very likely, bringing a cooler, calmer evening and night.
Good morning, the coal city, and welcome to Enugu. The morning will be a bit cooler, ranging between 24 to 26 degrees Celsius, giving you a calm and comfortable feel early in the day. By afternoon, things warms up to around 30 to 32 degrees Celsius. Rain may come earlier here, and once it falls, the evening turns fresh, breezy, and relaxing.
Good morning, Abakaliki. Abakaliki, this morning we start with a calm atmosphere of 24 to 26 degrees Celsius. But this place gets hotter as the day goes on, reaching about 32 degrees to 34 degrees in the afternoon. You really feel the heat in Abakaliki. Clouds will build up and thunderstorms are likely later, followed by a cooler and more relaxed night.
Good morning, Imo State, and welcome to my favorite city of Owerri. The day starts warm and a bit humid to around 25 to 27 degrees Celsius. Then, gradually, things get hotter, reaching to about 31 to 33 degrees Celsius in the afternoon. As day goes on, the air may feel heavier, and later on, rain or light thunderstorms are likely, leaving the night cool, calm, and slightly damp.
Good morning, Umahia. This morning, Umahia will start with a mild and comfortable morning of 25 to 27 degrees Celsius. But by afternoon, it will rise to about 31 degrees to 33 degrees Celsius with a bit of humidity building up. Later in the day, rain is expected and the evening settles into a cool, calm, and easy atmosphere.
So, wherever you are in the southeast today, stay safe, stay cool, dress light, and keep an umbrella close. Rain or shine, we've got you covered. And that's the weather report for today. Here on Aneke TV, we'll go on a short break and we'll return with more updates. Stay with us. The Insight with Uche Osai.
Having the political will to confront whatever is the challenges.
Igbo man wrestles with
the tortoise that had a lot of ingenuity, a lot of ideas, and the tireless.
It will take the bold mind of government in power to say, let there be electoral reform, no matter whose ox is God.
I was there. We did everything. All of us came and supported him with our last blood.
In-depth analysis, expert views, real voices, uncover the stories shaping Nigeria today. Deep dive, honest, unfiltered, only on the Insight with Uche Osai on Aneke TV. Join us.
You're still on Sunrise here on Aneke TV. Now, let's take a quick look at what's making the front page headlines of major newspapers today, ranging from the Vanguard, the Guardian, the Daily Trust, Daily Sun, and the Nation newspaper.
And joining us this morning is Aneke TV's in-house analyst, Mr. Res Arum, joining us to give flesh to these whole news issues. Mr. Res, it's a pleasure to see you on Monday morning.
Well, thank you, Uche, for having me. I'm here. And we are here to actually dissect the news pages the way they've been presented.
All right. And let me ask, has anything changed in the way Nigeria is treating you?
Not much has been changed. Nigeria has been the Nigeria we have known for quite a long time, since I was born, since I started knowing something. Nigeria has been almost the same.
You didn't buy rice cheaper this weekend? You didn't enjoy 247 power supply?
None.
None?
None, yes.
All right, we start today's headline with the Nation's newspaper, which says, bombs rain on fleeing terrorists, many killed at notorious markets. On the Punch headline, we have military defense Borno strike as death toll rises. Now on the Guardian headline, we have Nigeria faces fiscal inflation strain as market bets on $100 plus oil rally. On the Vanguard, we have war on terror. Dozens feared dead in Borno Yobe airstrike. Now on the Daily Trust, we have NAF jet kills over 200 civilians. Now on the Daily Sun, we have ADC takes survival fight to Supreme Court. ADC takes survival fight to Supreme Court. We go back to the Daily Trust headline, which says NAF, Nigerian Air Force jet, kills over 200 civilians. This headline alleges that a Nigerian Air Force jet strike has resulted in the deaths of over 200 civilians. It points to a likely tragic event, possibly from a misdirected airstrike or faulty intelligence from during a military operation. And this is from the headline that over 200 has been was killed by the strike that was carried by Nigerian Air Force personnel in the Gili market. From the look of events, there has been a lot of casualties, and also there has been many issues that have been raised from this particular issue. Mr. Rex.
Well, the Gili bombing has attracted a lot of criticisms. It has attracted a lot of comments from here and there, even from the military, from the government, and as well as the Human Rights International and agencies about the casualty during that bombing. But at the same time, let us start from what the military said. They said, the Air Force said they had surveillance and they got intelligence from even the ground, from humans, and they saw that terrorists were surging into the place with vehicles and motorbikes and all that. And they kept on until they got what they wanted and the signals required, which resulted in their bombing the place. But other sources are saying that the place is a major market at the border of Maiduguri and Yobe State.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have come from various communities around that place to Gili Market. They said that the terrorists actually were there, but they were there. Some said they were there to come and collect tolls.
The Korea,
collect tolls and exchange, things from people that supply them materials and all that. And in the course of that, the bombing came. So, but the reports from various other newspapers, some said the casualty is about 60, some said the casualty is 200. So it comes into conflict. They said that the specialist hospitals in both Yobe and Borno State are all filled up with people being treated inside vehicles and all that. This report did not go down well. Consequently, the Human Rights International and other civil society groups lent voice that the military must be careful the way they go about chasing these terrorists. And some said the terrorists, the kind of war against terrorists is such that they hide within the civilian places. So you find it very difficult to get them isolated and all that. So, well, it is unfortunate that people died in that bombing. Very, very unfortunate.
Okay, but I want to come in here because looking at the figures, over 200 people from the report. Now, what I want to focus on is that over the years, there has just been, well, almost never, when the Nigerian Air Force, when they are saying they are going to strike a terrorist conclave, that civilians will not be involved. And looking at other crimes, are these things what we should be facing anytime we're going after the terrorists? I mean, talking from the point of his Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has come out to criticize that particular strike with other civil society organizations, like you pointed out. Looking at that record, is it not giving what is actually the major thing that we should consider from this whole thing?
It is not even about consideration. Let me also say, we are going to talk about the consideration last. Let me say that bombing Air Force bombing, Nigerian Air Force bombing affecting civilians have been done many times over. Starting from 2014, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2025, and 2026. So there's been myriad of bombings that affected civilians. In all this, I'm telling you that all these bombings as enumerated, and in some of these years I counted, the years I mentioned, bombings happened sometimes 2 times, 3 times, and civilians were also killed. There were, times when much more than what has been killed or what is alleged or claimed to have been killed this year was more. We have had situations like that. So the situation is not healthy because the Air Force, the Nigerian Air Force, are meant to protect Nigerians. Even one of the bombings was even in Chad. You understand? Yeah. Within the border area. And Nigerian Air Force are supposed to be actually, taking care of protecting the lives of Nigerians. And remember what happened in the war between Iran and America. Just 2 persons that jet off their crashed planes. They had to put in more than $100 million to ensure that they get these 2 persons alive, to save them. And then we are talking about Nigerians who are now fighting terror. And in the course of that, we're mowing down Nigerians.
Mowing down Nigerians, that's
so you find out that it is very unfortunate that the expectation is that Nigerians should be protected, and that the Air Force, the military, the security agencies that are guiding these people should be careful in ensuring that whenever they are striking, they strike well. They couldn't do anything when they came to attack them in their own base. It's unfortunate when they are isolated with the terrorists. The 2 of them are isolated. This is the terrorist issue. So the humans are not there. So what you should have done is come all out and fight them and decimate them. But instead you went to the market to bomb the place. You are bombing everybody, including the terrorists.
All right, that's spot on. But I love the fact that you said when they were confronted, they didn't do much, giving me a leeway to probe into other issues, which, indicates my leaning on this issue. We are speaking to the killing. We do not have the accurate numbers yet. Some reports are claiming upwards of 200. Some are claiming 60. But one thing that is certain is that the figures, casualties are still being counted and then all that. But I must observe one thing. Yes, you cited accurately the number of times our Air Force has had to, bomb civilian population, and there has been casualties as well. But that needs not to undermine the fact that over time, when we report about the exploits of our military, yes, there are mishaps, but there seems to be some times when we've criticized them for inaction and pushed them into taking action. When they take this action, we'll rise to critique their action as well. And I say this because when you look at the news that is coming out, you see some giving figures higher, some indicating 200, some saying 60 and all that. And over time, if you watch the pattern, there seems to be that there are people who are sympathetic to this nefarious cause that we talk about often. people seem to, when the Air Force or the military take action, who seems to begin to undermine them by beginning to look for loophole. That does not mean to say that I do not have sympathy for civilian casualties. But let's start the facts on straight on. When you look at the place that was bombed, the Jale market, have been closed for about 5 years now, according to the governor of Borno State. What does that tell you? The military information is that this very market is a logistic hub for ISWAP, where they meet, transact. Is a converging point, a convergence point for these terrorists for many things. They shop, re-strategize, regather there for onslaught for attacks, and then we are having a military that have taken action, the Air Force. Yes, there's need to know the number of civilian casualties, but in all, without wanting to not sound sympathetic to the afflicted civilians in this place, there's what you call collateral damage as well. In this instance, yes, there may be collateral damage. And having said that, it's not that I'm not empathic to the people that have died, but the military has to take action. And I was going to question our military on a number of things. Yes, and I wouldn't want to hide under this resurgence or wake up by the Nigerian Air Force or the Nigerian military by beginning to bomb places that they needed to have bombed long ago to, hide other issues. There are many issues to be probed. The fact that we've lost a brigadier general is now, and about 17 other soldiers in a military formation is now giving rise to what we see, the rise in bombing of places. The point remains that the military, yes, they need to investigate the actions. Do the intelligence report they have, is it such that they are aware that there were a higher level of civilian casualties, or the pilot that flew that aircraft, miscalculated? These are the issues that one may probe, but it doesn't negate the fact that as a nation we are losing our combatants. There are questions that needs to be asked. And I don't want to hide those questions under the guise that, yes, they've woken up and they're beginning to, strike places. The point remains that we lost a general. Why did we have to lose this general in a military formation? And I asked I spoke on this issue the other day, and I asked a lot of questions. Where were the requests that the Brigadier Brema made for Abuja for them to give them equipment? Where was the T-72 that he requested from the defense headquarters in Abuja? Where is it? Where is the thermal optics that they needed because of the terrain, the dust from the Sahel? They needed a thermal optics for them to be able to, have clear visual on engaging the insurgents. It didn't come. So these are issues that needs to be probed. What happened? There was promises in the quarterly budget. Why was it not delivered? And we have it on good authority, the news have it as well, that the insurgents that attacked that military formation had better, thermal optics. They had equipment. But those at disposal of the Brigadier General at this military formation failed them. They were just overwhelmed by spirit of firepower. So there are issues that there are questions that needs to be asked. And over time, I make the argument that we need not have civilians, as defense ministers. We need to have battle-tested, hardy combatants head our defense forces, defense headquarters, and our Ministry of Defense as well. So that when there are needed decisions that needs to be made, when we need to lead an onslaught against the insurgents, it doesn't need to be reactionary. It has to be proactive when we do. And let me tell you, we are speaking about the civilian casualties because the action was reactionary. On this stage, we've talked about overtime. Why are we not engaging? Why are we not striking these places? And then when you are being reactionary, you're bound to make mistakes. But if you are proactive, your strikes have to be precision guided. In this instance. So there are a whole lot of issues to interrogate, and in as much as, yes, I sympathize with the casualties, but we need the military to escalate these attacks, these bombings as well. Yes, it's high time. And questions, this nation needs to ask questions. We need to ask questions at the right places. we've lost a brigadier general. The other day was General Oba. We don't know who next. So there are a whole lot of issues here. Rather than any time the military try to engage, then we begin to, sing choruses about the higher rate or the higher number of civilian casualties. I am happy that the military is investigating. And when they are done with this investigation, you will see, like I did allege, that the numbers may not be as much as is said. And over time, we've seen people who are quite sympathetic, calling these people their brothers. And then you forbid the military from taking a preemptive strike and actions. So they need to increase the onslaught. That's what I'm saying.
So it means that every time there's a strike, there will be collateral damage.
It's not every time that you have a strike you have collateral damage. We're having collateral damage because this is a reactionary strike. That's what I call it. When you are proactive, all your actions will be intelligence based, and it has to be a guided precision strike. But being reactionary, you may make some mistakes. It's unfortunate that there are collateral damages.
You remember that they caught a boy, one of the terrorists, who was going to get certain things for their group, about 850,000. And the boy, sang. What I mean by singing is that the boy told the story.
Give out information.
How they attacked the military base and how they went back to Chile. He was the person that gave an information that the people are now around Chile area, which resulted in the military trying to find them. And in the course of that, the bombing came. It's not just one jet fighter. There were about four of them. So they came around, but they are claiming that they did all the necessary cautionary measures before bombing. They are claiming. They said it was precision bombing, that they bombed the terrorists and not the people. But all the same, the terrorists were among the people. Things were exchanging hands before the bombing. And of course, the fighters were seen on the sky. The jets were seen on the sky before the bombing took place. So the terrorists also knew there was going to be such bombing.
And over time, they keep speaking to these terrorists using civilians as shade. Do you understand? Yeah. So, in this instance, yes, we are sympathetic to the civilian casualties. But in war, in fights like this, there is always a collateral damage. And do we keep quiet and keep losing our nationals, our citizens? Look at the number of deaths in Nigeria. Owing to these terrorist attacks, we are losing not just civilians now, we are losing combatants as well. And look at the number of people that are making rounds in the social media of kidnapped Nigerian soldiers as well. So these are issues you take into account. There are collateral damages in war. So in this instance, one needs to see more of this action. It shouldn't be as a response to the death of Brigadier General O.O. Brima in this instance. It shouldn't be reactionary. It should be sustained, consistent onslaught until they are dismantled. And in this instance, people know, and this is where I go, a number of times we've had a former defense minister who told us that because of the thick forest where these people are, that bombs cannot penetrate there. A whole lot of, sympathetic talks. And if we keep hinging on these pathetic talks, we will not win the war against terrorism. And by now, people should know to avoid these areas. You won't tell me that the people around Jile market are not aware that these terrorists, come to this market as well, that they regroup and see the place as a logistic hub. So in this instance, you should have, evacuated from this place. And like you rightly pointed out, this
I've been craving to have exchange of wares. To exchange their wares to the terrorists, because the terrorists do have plenty of money with them. So they're craving. They know the terrorists are coming. They want to see them and, get their money from them. So it's not as if they don't know, but that is giving yourself to risk. It's just like seeing a fuel tanker that has had an accident and is pouring, and you go there to scoop fuel. Of course, it is neither here nor there. Your chances of living is very low. That is what it is. So those civilians who are craving to do business with the terrorists, their chances of living will be very low because we do not know who is behind them, who is chasing them. The military, the security agency is chasing them. And in the course of exchange of fire, the chances of, bullets killing some persons that are civilians amongst them are there. So that is exactly what happened. And of course, they are saying whatever they have done may have been a mistake, but they were sure that they did what they ought to do rightly and with precision.
You know, we've seen a number of times in this nation when, our fighter pilots, go into battle and then come back, we begin to accuse them of not engaging properly or leaving more civilian casualties as is necessary. And you begin to see that this situation will begin to discourage a lot of them. I've interacted with many of them, and they are careful when they are set on these such missions in Nigeria. But the fact remains for me, in as much as we continue to interrogate this issue, I remember as a student of history, this is a nation that engaged in the Nigerian Civil War. And we deployed every technicalities in the book and beyond internationally accepted modalities for war. And we used starvation as a tool for prosecuting that war. And in this instance, why is it that we've not been able to condone of these areas, employing strategies and combat these areas? We starved the Biafrans through the Nigerian Civil War to, cow them into submission.
Biafra lost about 2 billion people.
This documented 2 million, and in history tells us that it's more than that. All right, then why is it that we cannot employ similar strategies to see that we combat these terrorists and then isolate them and then decimate them from this nation? For me, over time, when I interrogate this issue, I always anchor from the sentiment of the American legislators when they spoke to the will to prosecute the war. For me, that is the will that is lacking, over time. And there are a whole lot of issues that uncover when you, interrogate this issue. The news has it, and it's on good authority that Brigadier General Omo Brema, over time, did request for certain equipments, and they kept promising him over time. These equipments never arrived until the last minute. He didn't run away from the battlefield. He stood behind his men. He fought. And who failed him? The Nigerian state failed him. You never gave him what he requested for. They don't have the needed equipment to confront the situation. And we sent them to these places. So the Nigerian state keep letting them down. Yes, we did let General Oba down, and we've let another general down. And I tell you, we need to sustain such consistent precision attack on this and the terrorist enclaves, so that if that is not done, you begin to see a lot of disasters. There will be, amongst our combatants, they will begin to lose courage. They will begin to lose faith in the ability of this nation to protect and guide them in war front. And you begin to see a lot of disasters. So we need to open up and interrogate these issues, especially those of them in those air-conditioned offices in the Ministry of Defense. There are a whole lot of issues that need to be tackled. What is the defense budget like? What is holding the promised equipment? Who is holding them? What bottlenecks is holding them from giving them the needed equipment? As we are speaking, yes, Nigeria is a nation that has gone into serious debts and everything, and we are enjoying windfall from the Middle East crisis. Why are we not channeling that into bringing the needed equipment so that our men can confront the situation? And you see, over time, I've interacted with Nigerian soldiers and forces, and one thing I know with them is that these are courageous soldiers, courageous combatants. Given the right equipment, there is no situation they cannot confront. You go and study our exploits in Liberia. Go and study how we handled ourselves on international peacekeeping mission. There is no doubt that with this situation that we can, if we have the will, that we would overcome it.
All right, we go back to the Daily Sun where we have 2027 ADC battle shifts to courts. That's ADC battle shift to court. And an internal dispute within the African Democratic Congress, ADC, likely involving leadership or control ahead of 2027 elections, has escalated to the courts. The legal action suggests deep divisions within the party and could weaken its unity and preparation for the upcoming polls.
All right. Mr. Rex, let's start from you. We are speaking about ADC. The battle is no longer on the street or in front of INEC office. It's now in the Supreme Court.
Well, the issue of going to Supreme Court tends to put on hold the verdict of the High Court, which is scheduled to come this week. There's supposed to be a verdict of the Federal High Court in Abuja, which has been stalled because of court hierarchy, the judge will step down whatever he has to do, so far as it's a case concerning ADC and leadership crisis. It will step it down to, for the Supreme Court to have their way. And then Mark went to Supreme Court to ask for an injunction. And that injunction is to restrain, stop INEC from removing their name, returning their name back. The person's nephew, Bala, to, put on hold all his claims and stop the Federal High Court to stop everything about adjudicating on that matter, since it is a problem of, party, that is an internal party problem. That court has no jurisdiction to handle it. And then we go to look at the submission of the Bar Association chairman. The Bar Association chairman said that it's about time the NJC will begin to bring out certain rules to discipline some judges who decide to begin to handle cases that are not justiciable, to handle cases that are not supposed to handle, they don't have jurisdiction upon, they don't have jurisdiction to handle and give injunctions that could mar the progress or process of such a group of persons or whoever that has, that is really doing a legitimate transaction, business, or otherwise. That is to say, unjusticiable matters should not be handled by the courts. Since they are lawyers, since they are members of the jury, they are jurists, they should know the law. And when a law prescribes that kind of thing, they will hardly hands off such problems. And that is exactly why we said that judges who are involved in that, NJC should be able to put out certain rules to discipline them, give them disciplinary action, or make a disciplinary action against them. And that will make the judges to sit up and refrain from handling unjusticiable matters. So Mark is in the Supreme Court to ask the Supreme Court to do the needful. And the Supreme Court will hear that matter tomorrow, Tuesday.
All right.
So that is
all right. That's quite apt. I just hope and pray that the Supreme Court, in this very instance, would pander to the law and not continue to, will continue to witness what over time, where judgments are needed more interpretation, more dictionary for you to interpret the position of the Supreme Court on this issue. So we hope that they come out explicitly and make a clear pronouncement on this issue. And again, it becomes even more worrisome with our politicians. This time around, this ADC that is on the limelight. But I tell you one thing, the politicians, they know themselves, they know what they are doing. All these roadblocks and all that they throw at one another, they know what they are doing. And it's high time that the politicians begin to play by the law and in good conscience not do anything that would jeopardize this democracy. And I say this to say that when you look at the Electoral Act as amended, that section 83, subsection 5 and 6, you see that the politicians are quite very much aware of what they are doing, where they are breaking the law, where they are, taking charge of the loopholes as a roadblock or stumbling block for one another moving forward. So having said that, we pray that the court will come out this time around to give a clear directive or anchor their position already on the position of the Supreme Court that issues like this, which are internal affairs of political parties, need be resolved by the political parties. And having said that, we'll just watch and look. Tomorrow is already here. We'll see how these issues pan out, if there's still hope for the ADC. Because beyond moving to the Supreme Court, there are a whole lot of issues that are equally emerging. There's other group that is in court in Adamawa State, and there are more, the 23 state party chairmen are equally, on their own, with more factions, and in some states you have more factions.
There are indications that even the Adamawa court case has been resolved because they held their congresses from ward to the state level. But at the same time, the moment the Supreme Court rules, then it will just, everything will flow because every other thing will go. Because most of these things were all internal party politics. So the Supreme Court ruling will lay to rest most of the claims and counterclaims. They will go to the table. The party will go to the table and resolve their issues.
All right. That's hopefully that's what we expect, that the parties would listen to the Supreme Court when they give their ruling, either in favor or against, and come together and resolve their issues. Let us not continue to witness situations like in the Labour Party, where the parties will begin to give other interpretations and meaning, to the wordings of the ruling. We've seen different interpretation of status quo antebellum, even different opinion from different legal luminaries. We hope that this issue by tomorrow will be laid to rest.
All right, we go on a short break and we'll be right back with more updates. Stay with us.
Need advert placements, coverage for events, or the latest news stories? Call 070-3043-7110 right now. Aneke TV, move with the world. In a world that never stands still, where stories break in seconds and moments shape history, one station keeps you connected to your nation, to the continent, to the world.
From breaking news to powerful stories, from business and politics to culture, lifestyle and entertainment, we inform, we inspire, we keep you ahead.
This is more than television. This is your window to everywhere that matters.
Aneke TV. Move with the world.
Welcome back. Still on Sunrise here on Aneke TV. Now we take a look at the Punch headline. The headline Punch, which says Navy seizes 2 vessels with stolen crude. Navy seizes 2 vessels with stolen crude. The Navy intercepted and seized 2 vessels found transporting stolen crude, delaying a blow to illegal oil bunkering operations. The action highlights ongoing efforts by security forces to curb oil theft, protect national resources, and dismantle criminal networks operating in the maritime sector. I mean, Navy, as the other side of the military, are fighting in the air, doing the things they are doing. The side of this military, Navy, they are intercepted 2 vessels with stolen crude. And this is actually a development in the side of Navy, where there have been a lot of things around that. So, Mr. Rex.
About 939 tons of crude. These are just parts of what is being siphoned from the Nigerian economy. See, we say we'll make 1.8 million barrels per day, but there are claims and allegations that will make much more than that. But part of it is just exactly what the Navy has caught. The other time, last year, it was already transported to the United States of America, and the U.S. caught the ship carrying the crude oil. So, and we have not had anything about it since then.
That's just my problem, because now, after...
We have not had anybody talking about what has happened to the crude that was caught by the American government. Nigerian government have not been able to tell us. So these ones were caught in Nigeria between the Akwa Ibom and the Cross River axis. And today, they have all been, siphoned out of that ship, and then the crew arrested and detained. So, and this is just the best you will hear about. You may not hear about their prosecution or who owns the ship, who are the culprits, because it must not be the crew that are the culprits. The crew is hired. These are hired hands to pilot, to take care of the ship, and now finding out who owns the crude or who took the crude, from where they took the crude, who are the who compromised, from which rig, and so on and so forth. You will certainly not hear anything about it, because the government on its own, the individuals that are vested with this government responsibility, are also sabotaging the economy. They cannot come out openly to say these are the people who are, stealing our crude oil. These are the persons, and we are prosecuting them because these people are thieves, and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, the same intelligence agencies that will investigate these things will find out. But the powers that be will tell them not to let the cat out of the bag.
All right, allegedly, on this issue, I remember that in this nation, someone did, make us aware that ordinary Nigerians cannot steal crude. That it has to take people in high places, highly placed individual to orchestrate and steal crude to that quantity, 939, right? So, well, let me ask you a question. Do you remember the situation? Because you've cited the issue in the faraway United States, and you seem surprised that such a vessel, could have been, the contents could have already been diverted. And I ask, do you remember the issue with Empty African Pride? You remember Empty African Pride?
Yeah.
When he was arrested, and over time, what did we hear? That he has absconded. They couldn't find it again. These are the stories that make ground in Nigeria. We keep speaking to an economy that needed strengthening, an economy where we are still borrowing, yet we are leaving our borders porous. We are not policing the areas that needed to be policed. Look at this number of crude oil. These are the ones arrested. How much more the ones that had already left the shores of this nation? So a whole lot of issues to interrogate this time around, Mr. Reyes. When I see issues like this, it makes me, sometimes, instead of getting angry, I begin to laugh at our folly. We are reporting 2 vessels. What about the ones that has left the nation? Who are these individuals, like you rightly asked? Who authorized? Because they needed paperwork. Why can't we follow it and prosecute these individuals? But like you rightly pointed out, after today or this week, we may not hear anything about it, and that becomes it. But it's quite unfortunate.
All right, and that's a wrap on today's newspaper review. As always, you can grab a physical paper of your favorite paper from your nearest vendor or catch the full details online. And in the other news, we have news around the chairman of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Mrs. Abike Dabirerewa, has stirred controversy following remarks directed as supporters of former Anambra State Governor and Chieftain of African Democratic Congress, Mr. Peterobi. In a series of posts on X, Mrs. Dabiri Erewa criticized the conduct of group popularly known as Obedience, warning that their actions count negative impacts on Mr. Peterobi's future political ambitions if not addressed. She further asserted that political leaders bear responsibility for the behavior of their supporters while defending her right as a public official to respond to online criticism and engagement. The comments followed reaction to her recent official visit to Silicon Valley, where she engaged Nigerian professionals. Yes.
Well, you see, today's politics, especially that revolves around P2B, has been eliciting in some quarters criticisms and what have you. And in situations like that, people have been criticizing Obi. People have called him even fraud. People have called him a liar, and so on and so forth. People like Showore called him fraud, called him liar, said he wasn't able to make Anambra State Dubai in Nigeria and all that. And in the course of all that, of course, including many other politicians, the obedient group on their own begins to say a whole lot of things in defense of Peter Obi. These obedient groups are groups that are seen to be organic followers, ardent followers of Peter Obi's political vision. These are people who have beliefs in the, and these people can do anything within their reach to ensure that Obi becomes the president of Nigeria. And now, Abike Dabri, in our own case, with the criticisms, and then, of course, the counter-criticism against her, and then she's beginning to cry foul over the attitude of the obedient group. Well, you see, he who brings home an ant-infested firewood is only inviting lizards to his home to come and, play in his home. So it is. Politicians should be mindful of what they are doing and the way they talk about others. Politicians should be selling their manifestos and not, bent on criticizing, bent on, mouth-washing opponents or other political interests. So they should be mindful that selling their manifesto to the people is very paramount. And the followers of these politicians also should be able to be mindful to sell the manifestos of their principals so that they will not begin to cause problems. You see, in various ways, they will always tell you that the tongue is very, very dangerous. It could cause mayhem. It could also cause good. So be mindful of the way you use your tongue. Be mindful of the way you use your biro. Be mindful of the way you use your fingers, especially on the platforms, that social media platforms, so that what you write will not ignite any kind of problem. And that is the situation with the case of Obedient and the Dabiri issue.
All right, thank you very much. You've summed it quite well. Public officials need to be mindful of the way and manner they speak. A lot of people are listening to them. And we need to be very careful what we say and do as regards this democracy that we're enjoying. We should remember that as public officers, that our actions and inactions could in a number of ways undermine this democracy Why we may want to be partisan, but at the point where one begins to occupy public office, you hold a public trust. You are serving the generality of Nigerians, irrespective of political leaning. Yes, you may want to curry favor of those or the one who are appointed into office by wanting to sound more parochial or partisan, but be mindful. Why do we need to be so careful with our words and action? I always say the issue in Rwanda between the Tutsis and the Hutsis. It was incitement. It was talks. That's how it started. You know, people call it harmless talks, but there's nothing harmless about it. People will remember. People will be injured by what you say, especially when it's said by public office holders. And I believe a number of times, like many Nigerians, have called for the government to caution Abike Dabiri, because in all her public takings, she has over time shown to be tribalistic in her approach to issues. In the manner, even when Nigerians, you know, in diaspora commit crime, she is quick to ascribe tribes and names to such individuals and wouldn't, you know, pant that to the same mode and manner in some other cases. So, we plead and call on the authorities that they need to caution our government appointees, people who occupy leadership positions. In fact, they should be sent for orientation, training on the do's and don'ts, the manner of speaking when they are holding public trust is important, that we are leaders for all. I remember the maxim that is attributed to the former late head of state, that he is for everybody and for no one. And that should be the mindset of all political, religious, social, community, traditional leaders, wherever we find ourselves.
Also in the news, we have no vacancy. Nnamani Nwobodo, Okunano clan endorses Governor Petermbah of Enugu State. This refers to a public show of support from the Okunano community for Governor Petermbah of Enugu State. The endorsement signals political alignment with his administration, likely reflecting approval of his governance policies, development projects, or performance in office. It strengthens his grassroots backing within the region, which can be politically significant ahead of future elections or policy consideration. All right, let's take a moment and listen to the governor of Enugu State.
What you're doing from the Enugu is what will be recorded in history, and there will be a payback time tomorrow. It may not be in our lifetime, but maybe our children, our offspring will make reference to today, and they will remind the people of Enugu what an Nkanu son did for them. So nobody should divide us. Nobody should distract us. Nobody should distort the facts. When we say Petermbah dey walk, we dey see am. Petermbah dey walk, we dey see am. Petermbah dey walk, we dey see am. It is not just a slogan. It is not just a slogan. It speaks to the visible, what we could see. The visible and the impact of what we're doing. We are not building for today. We're building for our children. We're building for our children's children. Whereas you may be excited about the
to speak to the people from the standpoint of a man who feels that he has delivered on his promises. Mr. Reyes, we are seeing endorsements and we've seen the governor, boldly talk about achievements, deliveries.
Well, Okunano clan is a clan under the Nkano West local government area of Enugu State. And of course, we have had an Okunano man as the governor of old Anambra State, Chief Senator Jim Ifeachukwu. And of course, we have had the former Senate president from the same Okunano. And these people were all on hand to endorse the governor of Enugu State, given what they believe, and with the solidarity of the people, that he has done well within this period of 3 years in office. And they gave him an offer. Offer is a spiritual staff, cultural spiritual staff, that makes him their leader. That whenever he has this offer, it means he's leading them. As far as the governorship position is concerned, he remains their leader. And with that offer, the significance is that he should go ahead. He should go ahead and lead them, which means that they are not given to any other candidate, which means they have completely endorsed his candidature for another term. That is exactly what it is. But you know, politics being what it is, even with all the achievements that has been, enumerated and given what bad administration has done, yet some people are still wagging their mouth, especially on the area of water production and taxation. Although the state government has turned back to reconsider the taxations, and I think that is being taken care of presently, because the double taxation that had been there is now being reduced. That the ordinary people in the street will now pay taxes that are lower than what it were a few months back. So I think Mbah has all it takes. It's just for Okunano clan. We do not know whether all the clans in Enugu State will do the same endorsement. It is only when they have done the same endorsement that because the other political parties are also, all of them are also preparing and it's always a contest. And that is exactly why when one wins, people, there'll be a justification, because after the contest and one wins, it justifies. Just like, let me not even pick the Machiavellian principle. I know the election that we're expecting will be such that will be free, fair, and credible. And if Mbah wins, it is adjudged that he has done very well, because the reward for good work is more work. So if the people vote for him, then it means they have completely said that he has done well in his first term.
All right. Seeing the mammoth crowd gathered there speaks to one thing, and I would want to re-echo that yes, the people of Okunano clan has come out publicly to endorse the governor, but that in itself should spur the governor to continue to place Enugu as a benchmark for good governance, and he should continue his commendable revolutionary policies and ideas across all sectors in Enugu. Having gotten this endorsement doesn't mean that when eventually, if he does win second term, he should relax on his oars. The people, demand for more, and like you rightly pointed out, the reward for good work is more work. The people are expectant that he should equally increase, the dividends of democracy for the people by continuing to go ahead with the good works that's been seen so far.
All right, and up next is our business update.
All right, moving to the business updates, we'll look at our market projection for Monday, where analysts expect a cautiously optimistic start to the new week. The primary factors influencing the outlook include profit taking, when we are talking about equities, the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Yes, we are looking at profit taking, after the all-share index reached a high on Friday. Some investors may look to lock in gains early in the week, particularly in the banking and industrial sector that has been, pushing activities in the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And then another factor here is the earning momentum, where sentiments remain bolstered by the release of audited 2025 results. Companies announcing attractive dividends are expected to see sustained buying interest. And then speaking to liquidity trends as a part of the factors that are that will drive the market. As at today, we see while trading volume dipped on Friday, institutional interest in heavyweights like Access Holdings and Zenibak remain high, which could stabilize the index if selling pressure hits mid-cap stocks as well. And then another factor here is the macro factors. Speaking to market participants, continue to monitor the relative stability of the naira, which closing around 1,359 against the US dollar on Friday, has provided a measure of confidence for foreign and domestic investors alike. Overall, the market is expected to remain in a consolidation phase on Monday, with a likely tilt towards marginal gains. If dividends paying stocks continue their upward trajectory, yes, analysts expect a cautiously optimistic start to the new week. The three primary factors that is influencing the outlook is what we've giving you, speaking to profit taking, any momentum and liquidity trends as well. And then when we quickly look at the naira, our market projection for today is that analysts expect the naira to maintain its current consolidation phase while liquidity remains tight. The widening spread between official and parallel rates, currently around 43 naira, remains a key point of focus for market participants. Yes, and then when we look at Brent crude projection for today, the outlook for today being Monday is that opening session remains highly volatile, with analysts predicting a trading range between $92 and $99. Yes, and then we are hoping to a better diplomatic outcome given to the diplomatic meetings in Pakistan between US and Iranian delegation. Yes, and if everything go well, we see any sign of a concrete deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz could trigger a sharp sell-off towards the $90 support level. And we are looking at another factor here, which is the infrastructural recovery. Markets will be monitoring Saudi Aramco's updates regarding the Jubel facility that was, affected. Rapid repair progress would remove the immediate supply crunch fears that spiked prices on Friday. Remember that we as a result of the strike in Jubel facility, about 600,000 barrel is being lost on a daily basis as well. And then speaking to technical sentiments, technical analysts note that a spinning top candlestick pattern suggesting the market is in a state of indecision. Consolidation is expected unless a major geopolitical headline breaks before the markets close today. And then speaking to long-term divergence, where institutional forecasts for Q2 2026 remains split. Goldman Sachs has lowered its forecast to $90 on ceasefire hopes, while JP Morgan maintains a $100 target with upside risk if regional infrastructure remains targeted. And then quickly on the commodities market, where we'll give you our overall projection on domestic grains. We expect a slight uptick this morning, being Monday, with the food price index hitting its highest level since September. The transmission of global energy costs into local food logistics will likely keep the floor high for maize and sorghum. And then on export sector, we are talking to cocoa and ginger. The market will be watching for demand signals from the upcoming Q1 and Q2 grind reports. If demands remain resilient despite higher prices, we could see the Affairs export index gained momentum later today, and then speaking to currency impact, where the naira's relatively stability, may encourage more transparent pricing in the export market, reducing the informal premium often seen during periods of high volatility. And then moving on to the international market, we will tell you that the projection today is that the geopolitical pivot will, determine the way the market will sway today. If there is a successful breakthrough regarding the Strait of Hormuz, will likely trigger a risk-on rally, lifting tech and industrial stocks while sending energy prices and safe haven assets like gold lower. And then looking at earnings season kickoff, where this Monday will mark the start of the heavy hitter earnings week. Investors will be looking for guidance from JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, and BlackRock to see how major financial institutions are navigating the current energy shock and interest rates environment. And then we are looking at IMF World Bank spring meeting. Ongoing discussion in Washington will set the tone for global policy coordination with a focus on managing the oil shock impact on net importing nations as well. Yes, and then our strategy for today is that we charge investors today to prioritize quality over hype. You should focus on tier 1 banks and companies with confirmed dividend yields. Yes, these are the ways to go. And if you have made profit from Friday, then this morning you can take profit as well. But however, you should avoid underperforming sectors like insurance, which led the losers chart as at Friday. So the bottom line here is that you should buy the dips in blue chips, but don't chase the record high or share index. Yes, and that's where we'll draw the curtain on this. And we'll do remind you that before you make incursion into the Nigerian financial market, please do well to consult a certified financial analyst. And this is due to the volatility of the market.
And that's a wrap on this edition of Sunrise here on Aneke TV. Thank you for waking up with us. It's always a pleasure. I'm Good Hope Chukwu.
And thank you, Mr. Resarum, for those in-depth analysis on newsworthy issues in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Uche. And for you, keep watching Aneke TV.
And I'm Uche Osai. On behalf of all of us here on Sunrise at Aneke TV, we say thank you for watching and keep watching till we come your way same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.
In a world that never stands still, where stories break in seconds and moments shape history, one station keeps you connected to your nation, to the continent, to the world.
From breaking news to powerful stories, from business and politics to culture, lifestyle and entertainment, we inform, we inspire, we keep you ahead.
This is more than television. This is your window to everywhere that matters.
Aneke TV. Move with the world.
Nigeria, Africa's largest economy and most populous nation, continues to grapple with a critical infrastructure deficit that hinders growth and development. Reliable electricity remains a major challenge. Although Nigeria has the capacity to generate 12,000 to 13,000 megawatts supplied to homes and businesses is inconsistent. In 2023, only 61% of Nigerians had access to electricity, leaving around 87 million people without reliable power, the largest electricity access gap in the world. This shortfall forces businesses to spend billions of dollars annually on backup solutions like diesel generators, diverting resources from investment and job creation. Transmission losses, generation inefficiencies, and gas supply challenges further suppress per capita electricity consumption, affecting productivity and competitiveness. Transport infrastructure also lags behind demand. While Nigeria has an extensive road network, over 70% of roads are in poor condition, slowing the movement of goods and people, raising transport costs for farmers and traders. Rail development remains limited, with only about 3,500 kilometers of operational track, insufficient for a country of over 220 million people. Overall, Nigeria's infrastructure stock, including roads, power systems, bridges, water systems, and digital networks, is estimated at about 30% of GDP, far below 70% international benchmark. This gap continues to constrain productivity and foreign investment. Water and sanitation infrastructure also fall short, leaving millions without access to safe drinking water or adequate sanitation. These affect public health, school attendance, and economic participation. Digital infrastructure is another critical area. Broadband penetration and data center capacity remain limited, concentrated mainly in Lagos, while other states lag behind. This restricts growth in fintech, cloud services, e-government, and emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence. Experts estimate that hundreds of billions of dollars will be required annually over the next decade to close these infrastructure gaps. Mobilizing investment from private sectors, international finance institutions, and public-private partnerships is essential. For Nigerians, improving infrastructure is more than convenience, it is a path to safer roads, stable power, efficient transport, modern digital networks, more jobs, business growth, better health outcomes, and increased competitiveness on the global stage. Bridging this infrastructure divide is crucial to transforming Nigeria's potential into tangible progress for every citizen.
Morning headlines before you step out. Midday updates while you walk. Evening analysis when the day winds down. Wherever life takes you, Aneke TV keeps you informed, connected, and ahead. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
Nigeria, a land of striking contrast, where nature unfolds into dominant ecological identities. The lush southern forest and the vast northern savanna belts, stretching from the humid Atlantic coast to the dry fringes of the Sahara. Nigeria's vegetation is shaped by climate, rainfall, and human activity. Broadly, it is divided into the southern forest zones and the northern savanna belts. In the south, abundant rainfall gives rise to tropical rainforest, thick, multi-layered ecosystems, rich in biodiversity, towering trees from a continuous canopy, sheltering countless plants, and animal species. These forests are not only ecological treasures, but also economic lifelines, supporting agriculture and livelihoods. Closer to the coast, fresh water and mangrove swamps dominate. Here, water and land intertwine, creating unique habitats adapted to flooding and salinity. The mangrove forests of the Niger Delta are among the largest in Africa, vital for coastal protection and marine life. Moving northward, forests gradually give way to the Guinea savanna, a mix of tall grasses and scattered trees. This region supports farming and livestock, forming Nigeria's agricultural heartland. Further north lies the Sudan savanna, where rainfall decreases and vegetation becomes sparser. Life here adapts to longer dry seasons and harsher conditions. At the northern edge, the Sahel savanna marks the transition to the desert. Vegetation is sparse, and survival depends on resilience of both people and nature. However, Nigeria's vegetation faces growing threats. Deforestation in the south and desertification in the north are reshaping the landscape. Population growth, agriculture, and climate change continue to exert pressure on these fragile ecosystems. Yet, hope remains. Across the country, conservation efforts are taking root, from reforestation projects to sustainable land management practices, from the dense forests of the south to the open savannas of the north. Nigeria's vegetation tells a story of diversity, resilience, and responsibility. A story that calls on all of us to protect the natural heritage we share.
Need advert placements, coverage for events, or the latest news stories? Call 070-3043-7110 right now. Aneke TV, move with the world.
Every second, the world changes, markets rise, leaders speak, stories unfold. To keep up, you don't just need news, you need clarity, you need speed, you need perspective.
That's why Aneke TV brings you the global pulse. Accurate, reliable, right when it matters most. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
Leadership, in its deepest sense, is not the occupation of authority, but the assumption of moral weight. It is the invisible burden of choice, the negotiation between power and conscience, between what is possible and what is right. In every society, but especially in Nigeria's complex and evolving democracy, leadership becomes the mirror which a people either recognize their dignity or lose sight of it. Integrity, therefore, is not a decorated virtue attached to leadership. It is its very substance. It is the invisible thread that binds intention to action, promise to fulfillment, and power to responsibility. Without integrity, leadership becomes performance. With it, leadership becomes philosophy in motion. To speak of an egalitarian society is to speak of a moral imagination, a society where human worth is not negotiated by birth, geography, tribe, or privilege, but recognized as an inherent truth. Yet, such a society cannot exist in abstraction. It must be constructed through the ethical decisions of those entrusted with power. In this sense, integrity is not merely a personal virtue, it is a structural necessity. Nigeria, like many post-colonial societies, carries within it a tension between promise and practice. Its constitutional ideals often rise higher than its institutional realities, and in that gap between aspiration and execution, the question of integrity becomes unavoidable. For every broken system is first a broken commitment, every weakened institution a reflection of compromised truth. When leadership loses integrity, societies does not simply become inefficient, it becomes fragmented. Trust, once fractured, does not merely disappear, it recedes into cynicism. Citizens begin to expect failure as normality, and governance becomes a theater where hope is repeatedly rehearsed but rarely fulfilled. Yet, integrity in its truest philosophical sense is not merely the absence of corruption, it is the presence of coherence. It is the alignment of inner conviction with outer action. A leader of integrity does not simply avoid wrongdoing,
Need advert placements, coverage for events, or the latest news stories? Call 070-3043-7110 right now. Aneke TV, move with the world. Right now, Aneke TV, move with the world. In the stories of ancient Greece, Achilles was more than a warrior. He was a hero whose strength could turn the tide of war, whose courage inspired loyalty, and whose presence commanded respect. His name had endured across millennia, a symbol of valor, power, and influence, a figure whose actions shaped destinies. Yet, Achilles' legacy was not only in the power he wielded, it was in how he used it. He fought not for personal glory alone, but for the honor and protection of those who depended on him. His might was purposeful, guided by responsibility, and measured by the lives he safeguarded. Today, Nigeria faces battles of different kind. These are battles fought not with swords, but with policies and principles. Our enemies are corruption, insecurity, inequality, and leadership that too often prioritizes ambition over accountability. These are struggles that affect millions, shaping the future of a nation rich in potential but fraught with challenges. The story of Achilles carries a lesson for our time. Strength without wisdom and responsibility is hollow. Power without vision can destroy more than it builds. Leadership in Nigeria demands more than force. It requires courage, foresight, and a commitment to the people. True heroism is not in personal triumph, but in the welfare of those entrusted to your care. The heroism Nigeria needs is tangible. It is reflected in leaders who listen to their citizens, govern with accountability, and deliver policies that empower communities, safeguard livelihoods, and create opportunity. It is measured by children in classrooms, families with secure futures, and communities that thrive. It is heroism that transforms potential into progress and challenges into triumph. Achilles' greatest victories were those that protected his people and honored his obligations. Similarly, Nigeria's most enduring successes will be those that prioritizes its citizens, safeguard their future, and uphold accountable people-centered leadership. Strength exercised for the common good, rather than personal gain, is the truest measure of greatness. As the nation charts its path forward, the message is clear. Leadership must be courageous, visionary, and responsible. It must fight not for applause, not for legacy alone, but for the prosperity, security, and dignity of every Nigerian. When strength is wielded for the greater good, it becomes enduring. When power is guided by principle, it inspires. When leadership is accountable, it unites. The chapters of Nigeria's destiny are still being written. Its future rests not in the triumphs of a few, but in the collective progress of millions. The nation's victories will be measured not in fleeting fame, but in lives transformed, communities empowered, and hope restored. In the spirit of Achilles, Nigeria must find strength that serves, courage that protects, and leadership that uplifts. In that strength lies the promise of a stronger, united, and more prosperous nation. One that honors its people, secures their future, and fulfills its boundless potential.
Morning headlines before you step out. Midday updates while you walk. Evening analysis when the day winds down. Wherever life takes you, Aneke TV keeps you informed, connected, and ahead. Aneke TV. Move with the world.
. 。  . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . . 。 . 。
。 .
. 。